Good day, digital duelist. You're the first one today. Congratulations. And hello to the anonymous listeners as well. Yeah, quite the interesting Buildsphere we have ahead of us. Just to give you an exclusive outlook here, it's going to be a little bit about the history of our good friend André Cronje. We are going way back in DeFi. And then we are going to bridge it into the now. And Caesar already requesting to get on stage. Let's make it happen. All right, fingers crossed that it's going to work. Showing up as a speaker now. Caesar, let's do a quick mic check if everything is working on your end.
Yeah, how does this sound?
That sounds lovely. Hey, Caesar, how is it going?
Things are great. Things are pretty good. It's a little bit early morning for me, but I think I can handle this.
Oh, right. Yeah, I think it should come rather easy to you. I mean, I've done my homework, had a little bit of a peek at your YouTube channel. So, yeah, I have the impression you can do this half asleep.
Yeah, totally. These kinds of things are a walk in the park for me, actually, because I don't have a time limit, most of the time, so I can explain everything, blabber on. But yeah, feel free to ask anything. Of course, we'll have the audience there ask some questions in the end if they need, and I'll do my best to answer them as clear as I can.
Yeah, sounds good. Hopefully there's going to be a lot. I mean, Velocimeter has quite some things to offer. So yeah, let's hope we can pique some people's interest here. And yeah, with the 5 o'clock mark hit, I'm just going to quickly get the intro over with, and then we can get started. So welcome everybody. This is Buildsphere number 20. Buildsphere, in case you don't know by now, is the format where we are giving the community the opportunity to explore some of the projects that are launching on IOTA EVM. And Velocimeter is, of course, going to be one of those. And towards the end, you can raise your hand. We can get you on stage. You can throw your question directly here at Caesar. You're talking to quite the expert, so I would definitely suggest you make use of that opportunity. And likewise, if you're having a project that you want to deploy on IOTA or you know somebody that does, then please find the application form under each original tweet that is announcing a Buildsphere, short and painless. And then, yeah, it will be my pleasure to host you here as well. All right, cool. With that out of the way, I think, why don't we start? I should mention that I'm your host, Jonathan, and now we should pass it over to you, Caesar, for a quick introduction about yourself and the role that you play at Velocimeter.
Sounds great. I'm Caesar of Caesar Snack Sandwich, DeFi researcher, degen, user, builder. I kind of have my fingers in all the pies. At Velocimeter, I am kind of like a thought person. I kind of give ideas, help develop ideas as well, work with the devs to kind of check things as well as, help them to come up with ideas of what to code up and how to iterate on the models that are currently out there. Velocimeter is a VE33 DEX. It's a place where you can trade tokens based on, like what you were going to say, on Andre Solidly. However, Velocimeter has had a lot of iterations, a lot of changes, a lot of big differences now. And that comes partially because of some ideas that I contribute to the team and what they code up and stuff like that, as well as some other people inside the team as well that have a lot of good ideas, and we kind of put everything together into what we have today, or what we're going to be launching, which is version 4 on IOTA. I think that's enough.
Yeah, thanks so much for the intro. You have already mentioned here André Cronje. Yeah, I think it was quite a wild time in DeFi and Web3 when he was still one of the main characters. And yeah, you already alluded to it. So Velocimeter is an iteration of Solidly. That is correct as that, right?
That's right. Yeah. We started the code base off of the Velodrome code base. But Velodrome is an iteration of Solidly. Solidly is the first one, and then all of the VE33 dexes are iterations of Andre Cronje's original design idea.
Yeah, we are going to get into the iterations a bit, but I feel like it is probably a good idea to cover some basics first. And that is probably we should start at what does it mean to be a V33 DEX?
Yeah, that's an easy one. Basically, well, maybe not an easy one, but if you go back into DeFi Summer, there's a protocol out there called Curve Finance, and what they do is they incentivize people to provide liquidity. So when there's provided liquidity, that's basically, it's like an order book. It means that there's tokens within a very, very large range of prices that anyone can kind of come and buy and sell those tokens. So that's the main idea of what a DEX is, what the purpose of a DEX is. Now, there's Uniswap and there's Curve Finance. Now, what Curve did that was really special is they asked people to take their reward tokens and lock them. And then by locking those reward tokens up, you could then vote on a pool that you think should get more rewards, right? Or a portion of those rewards. And this has been wildly successful. But what Andre looked at and what he found was a problem with it was that people would vote on pools that were unperformant, that did not really get a lot of trading because they owned it didn't matter to them which pool they voted on. They could vote on any pool and the emissions would go to that pool and they would get a pro rata share of all of the fees across the entire DEX. So what Andre saw here was a problem that what we want people to vote on are pools that are producing trading volume and trading fees. And so he designed the VE33 DEX so that you only get the fees from the pool that you vote on, as opposed to you get a pro rata share of all the fees across all the pools. And what this has done is it has created an alignment of voters and liquidity pool providers. So there's no longer a parasite on the system where people are voting on their pool or voting on a pool that doesn't produce any fees, giving that pool rewards and emissions and collecting fees from the ones that are actually creating fees and trading volume. So that was the first thing he saw and he fixed with this VE33 DEX model. The second thing with VECRV, which is the curve locked token, is it's so bound to your wallet. So you lock your tokens for 4 years and then you cannot transfer those to another wallet. And there's two reasons why you would want to transfer them to another wallet. One is maybe your wallet is compromised or you're worried that it might be compromised. So you want to migrate to another wallet for safety reasons. Or maybe you want to sell it to somebody. You want to stop having this. You want to stop playing this game, so to speak. And so he has fixed this by creating an NFT of those positions. So when you lock tokens, you get an NFT. Now that NFT can be transferred to other wallets, and that NFT can also be sold to other people because it can be transferred to other wallets. There's a little bit of particular details and each iteration is a little bit different about voting and transferring and stuff like that. But that's the main idea of what he saw and what he changed and so forth.
Yeah, great explainer there. I mean, just to add on the success that Curve was having, I think back to the times of the Curve wars where, everybody was competing over the reward tokens to have more control over where the emissions are going. So I think that was, wildly successful in that sense that, they were heavily sought after and controlling the flow of the rewards was really, a game with a lot of money involved, with a lot of big players. And I think you pointed it out very, very clearly here. Say that I create a token and let's say I create 2 tokens, pair them together in a liquidity pool. And now I vote that all of the emissions or a big chunk of the emissions should go towards that pool. It is not really producing any benefit. It could be very low liquidity, very low trading volume. So definitely there is a need to align the incentives better. And it sounds like Solidly has moved in the right direction and we've gone quite a long way from there. Yeah, so that is the explainer of how Velocimeter compares to Solidly. But I'd like to also point out the differences to providing liquidity in a very basic AMM, let's say Uniswap. Or maybe to phrase it differently, why would I put up with all of the complexity that Velocimeter introduces versus just providing liquidity on Uniswap? A little bit of a loaded question. You'll have to forgive me for that. But yeah, clearly Velocimeter, a little bit more complex. I want to figure out whether that is worth putting up for the average user.
Okay, so there's a few things that are like very there's a few things to consider here. Okay, so when you provide liquidity on Uniswap, what you're trying to do is you're trying to collect the trading fees, right? And that's all good and well. Like I do provide liquidity on Uniswap to some extent, and because I want to collect those trading fees. When you provide liquidity on Velocimeter or any of the VE33 dexes, then you give up those trading fees in order to farm the reward token. Now, why would you want the reward token instead of those trading fees? Is generally speaking, you'll get a higher APR in reward tokens because you can then use those reward tokens to vote, which will get you the trading fees as that you've given up, right? As well as sometimes there are bribes you can vote on. And extra rewards to be collected in that manner. So that would be like the main reason why you would choose like a solidly DEX like Velocimeter over Uniswap. There are some other details like on Solidly we have stable swap pools. So if you're providing liquidity to USDT, USDC, you won't have as much slippage as you will on Uniswap, because Uniswap doesn't have a pool specifically designed for stable swap. And that's where kind of Curve got its legs, because Curve did have like the formula, the curve inside the stable swap pool is different than the curve and the price impact of like a Uniswap pool. There's obviously like a lot of iteration now on Uniswap. We have Uniswap version 3, which is concentrated liquidity, and that performs very well for stable coins as well. So it's not completely accurate, but it kind of gives you the idea that like on a solidly DEX, you have two kinds of main pools as well as perhaps concentrated liquidity options. I hope that makes sense. That's getting a little weedy right into the weeds.
Yeah, absolutely making sense. I think before we go into the user journey of me creating a token and pooling it, maybe we should get the bribe terminology out of the way first. I love this terminology. I think it's a very honest way of phrasing things. So yeah, how does bribing work and why is it considered a good thing here? It is certainly a rather negatively connotated word in the real world, not so much in DeFi. Can you break that down for us, please?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, sure. I like the word. I believe the word bribe has negative connotations in the real world because bribes are secret. They're hidden, usually. People give bribes to politicians or businessmen, but nobody knows about those bribes, right? Whereas on the blockchain, these bribes are always transparent. Everyone can participate. Everyone can take those bribes as long as they perform the actions that reward the bribers, right? So that's what, like, it changes the morality of bribing very clearly because it's transparent. It's like rewards. It's the same as rewards. It's just a different kind of word because you're asking people to do specific things and you're giving them rewards for that. So it's very like the word bribe is maybe a little bit of a misnomer in the sense of what people think of bribes. Now on Solidly, on Velocimeter, how do bribes work? Okay, so let's say a protocol doesn't have any voting power right now, and they want to gain some voting power. So they create a liquidity pool on Velocimeter, and they have a whole bunch of tokens, but they don't have any voting power. So what they can do is they can bribe the people who do vote. They can put the rewards into a smart contract and everyone can see them. And then every week people will vote. And if they see those rewards there and they want those rewards, then they will vote on that pool. That pool will now start getting like Velocimeter reward tokens, and the voters will take those bribes. And they can do with those bribes as they please. They can sell them. They can put them into the system of that token, and they can use them however they please because they're now their tokens, right? They come out of that bribing smart contract. Now, the protocol who had perhaps provided that liquidity, now they get Velocimeter tokens, and they can start to build up a voting position in this manner. So it's like a different way of buying the reward token. Instead of going to the market and simply buying from the market and having price impact and price change, they can vote to incentivize people to vote, they can bribe to incentivize people to vote. And then when people vote, they can farm those rewards and build up their own voting position. I hope this makes sense.
It does, absolutely. So, with that out of the way, I think we covered basically all of the terminology. I think maybe it's a good start to launch a token, pair it with USDC, and talk a little bit about the user journey here. So, clearly there is a whole chain of events that can unfold if one decides to make full use of Velocimeter. So, let's say that I issue a token, pair it with USDC. Can you talk us through the process of what is going on now? How do I make use of my position in the most reasonable way?
Yeah, this is there's a lot of optionality here. There's a lot of choices to make and stuff like that. But, so let's say that there are two kinds of users, right? There are passive, like we'll call them mercenary farmers. They have tokens and they're kind of like maybe the community and they can provide liquidity. And then you have, projects who have a token and they can provide liquidity. So anyone can provide liquidity to any pool as long as it's a pool. Anyone can create any pool inside the system, right? So a project who wants to kind of start their token, generally the project will create liquidity first so that then people can buy that token and become part of a token holder community, or generally nobody's going to really care about that token until there is a liquidity pool. So usually the project is the first one to create the liquidity pool. So they would come to Velocimeter. It's pretty permissionless. They would come to Velocimeter. They would have their token. They would have some USDC or some IOTA, whatever kind of token they want. And they can just kind of create a liquidity pool. They can go and say, is it a stable swap pool or is it a volatile pool? Meaning that do these tokens want to stay the same value at all times? So something like USDC, USDT, you would want to use a stable swap pool for that. And if you're doing something like Caesar token and IOTA, the prices of those are going to vary quite drastically. So you're going to use a volatile pool instead. So you'd create this volatile pool. On Velocimeter, we have on Velocimeter version 4, one of the things that we're going to be adding into the system, like it's already audited and it's already part of the code, but we're not going to enable it immediately. And that is permissionless gauges. Now a gauge is the system, the smart contract that gives out the rewards. Okay. So you would come with IOTA and Caesar token. You would create a liquidity pool. At this current time, you're going to ask us for a gauge, but in the future, you will be able to automatically create a gauge as long as you're using IOTA token or USDC or USDT, depending on the tokens that are prevalent and very healthy inside the ecosystem, the IOTA ecosystem. So you create an LP, create a gauge, and then now you have a choice. Do you have voting power? You can go and buy the token and create voting power, or you can bribe and get people who do have voting power to send rewards to the gauge. and you can farm those rewards and then create voting power. I'll talk a little bit about voting power in a second because it's very different again on version 4, but I think that kind of gives you a walkthrough, an idea of what a project has to do to kind of get into the system and join us.
Lovely. Yeah. So the bribes can come in any form though, right? So I could choose to bribe somebody in USDC. I could go with IOTA or any other token really. Or is the gauge limiting the reward options?
Well, because for safety reasons, we have to whitelist bribe tokens because, there could be some malicious code inside a token. So it can be any token. The bribe gauge can accept any token, but it has a whitelisting feature so that, people do not put malicious tokens as bribes into the system.
Yeah, that is of course making sense there. But probably I would assume it's a rather easy process to get whitelisted if you're actually coming with good intentions, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just simply, share us the token code, basically. We just, one of the devs will just have to double check it, make sure there's no, terrible code inside that's going to drain people's wallet or something.
Yeah, that is the preferable option. I totally agree there. I'm wondering, should we take it to the reward token yet, or should we be talking about the voting NFT first?
Let's go with the rewards first because you need to understand what the rewards are in order to do the. It's kind of maybe it's they kind of run in parallel, so it's up to you actually. Whatever one you want to start with, we'll go with it.
We can intertwine them. Whenever you feel there is a good intersection between both, we can just flip-flop between those. But I'm assuming that on IOTA EVM, there will be a dedicated Velocimeter reward token that will be different from the iteration on Phantom, for example.
Yeah, that's right. So let's start there. Velocimeter is a siloed protocol. So a lot of protocols, they like to be multi-chain, and they like to cross their token across bridges. Velocimeter has a different mentality on this. They don't want that bridge risk. And so as a result of not wanting that bridge risk, Velocimeter, every time it deploys to a new chain, it creates a new token. So on IOTA, it's going to be called IVM. On Phantom, it's called FVM. So Phantom Velocimeter, IOTA Velocimeter. So yeah, it will be a brand new token called IVM. We've already deployed it, and we already have all the details and stuff like that. So yeah, it's its own token on IOTA and completely isolated and siloed, and there's no bridging or anything necessary like that.
Right. Yeah, I think that is kind of bringing us to the voting NFT. As far as I understand it, the rewards get locked. You choose a length, and then you get a NFT that is basically a receipt for your locked tokens, and that is what is granting the voting power. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but that is how I understood it so far.
Okay, so yeah, Velocimeter version 4 has some big iterations on this model. So solidly across everywhere you go and you look at solidly, all the VE33 dexes, what they do is they give out tokens, right? Reward tokens. People can take those reward tokens and they can sell them, or they can lock them for some period of time. The common time is around 4 years. And the least amount of time is around, I think the least amount is 4 months or something. I think Equalizer has 4 months. So generally about a year to 4 years is the locking time. So you just take tokens and you put them into the NFT, and then you can take them back, but you can sell the NFT on the open market. So it's still liquid. It's still sellable. But it's not, those tokens are kind of locked away. Velocimeter has, on Phantom and all that, that's kind of how it works. But in version 4, what we've decided to do is instead of having people lock up the IVM token, we're going to ask them to lock up IVM WIOTA LP tokens. So everyone who has an NFT is also a liquidity provider of the reward token. Now, the reason for this is because when you vote to direct emissions, not only are you directing your voting towards pools that are producing fees, but you're also considering all those rewards going to be sold? Because if they're sold on you. You're providing liquidity. So you're one of the members of the liquidity providing tools. So you have to kind of consider, are those farmers going to just all be selling my token on me because I'm a liquidity provider? Now, Velocimeter does reward the NFT holders a lot in version 4. So you will be subsidized quite heavily by providing liquidity to this. So just to kind of clarify that and repeat it, a user, in order to have an NFT on Velocimeter version 4, you have to actually provide liquidity to IVM WIOTA, and then those IVM WIOTA get put into the NFT and locked. Now, our lock time is only 90 days because you are providing liquidity. You're taking on a little extra risk. So we've reduced the locking time quite substantially. So that kind of gives you a little, there's a lot more details I can get into about this, and I kind of have to in order for you to understand. But that's kind of the answer to the question you asked me, is what is being put into the NFT.
Yeah, that is clear. I mean, it makes sense if the people with the voting power, they're also liquidity providers. I think it aligns, the incentives better instead of just the rewards getting dumped the moment they are being claimed. So yeah, quite interesting. Will be interesting to see how this unfolds for sure. So I kind of want to talk about the option tokens as well a little bit. Maybe it's a good idea to just start with a rundown from your side. I'm not sure what the changes are going to be from V3 to V4. So maybe a good idea to just, talk us through about how they work in version 4 that is going to be deployed on IOTA.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I'm not going to get into version 3 because there are some options there that are not relevant anymore. So in Velocimeter, on version 4 as well as version 3, but in Velocimeter, we do not give farmers IVM tokens. We give them OIVM tokens, option IVM tokens. So when let's say the farmer provides liquidity to IOTA USDT, right? So they're farming these OIVM tokens. Now, when they get these OIVM tokens, they have two options. They can exercise them into liquid tokens, right? Or they can exercise them into the VELP, which is that NFT, right? That you can use for voting. So now there are two options. So exercise to liquid tokens. Now, generally, why would you do that? Is because you want to sell them, right? Exercise to the VELP, you want voting power. So there are those two options. What it does is it uses the TWAP, the price of IVM inside the LP, to decide how much does it cost to exercise these tokens. It's cheaper to exercise to the NFT than it is to exercise to liquid tokens. So I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. I'd have to double check. But let's say about 90, you have to pay 90% of the value to go to liquid tokens, and you have to pay something like 20% or 10% to go to the NFT. So this is kind of hard to understand just by me talking. I would suggest you to read the doc, the article, to kind of get a better understanding of how this works, because there are monetary examples and stuff like that. But let's say you have $100 worth of tokens, and you want to exercise to liquid to sell, then maybe you have to pay $90 to get $100 worth of tokens out of that contract, out of that options token. So you make $10 basically, right? And then if you want to go to the VELP, then you need to pay only $10 to get $100 worth of tokens. So the cost of exercising those options tokens varies depending on which route you want to take. Now, all of that cost, where does that money go, that IOTA that you have to pay in order to exercise these tokens, is it goes to the voters, pro rata, based on their voting power. So everyone who holds the VELP collects those exercise fees in IOTA tokens, not in IVM tokens. It's paid in WIOTA. So then you're getting an APR in WIOTA, or the gas token of the chain, just by holding that NFT. And who's paying you? Everybody who wants to sell. So the idea here is that we want to not, I don't want to say punish the mercenary farmers, but we want to make the mercenary farmers pay a premium to sell to the people who want to provide liquidity. And that's the system of the options token, basically how it works. Like, there are minor details or specific numbers that you kind of have to look at. And the front end is very good at kind of showing you exactly how much you're going to have to pay, how much it's costing, how much, and stuff like that, and APRs and stuff like that. So the front end will be very more clear than just listening to my voice. And then I would also suggest you to kind of read our different articles that kind of explain these systems in more depth, as well as I do have videos that kind of explain the options tokens if you want to go there. I hope this is clear. Do you have any deeper questions or something confusing you?
Seconding that, so that is making a lot of sense. You should definitely check out the Velocimeter website. It is quite the nice breakup of what you're paying, what you're getting, what the discount is, etc. So yeah, it might sound a little bit more confusing than it is when you're actually having numbers in front of you. And yeah, I think it's a great idea to, well, not punish the mercenaries, but they are kind of working for the pockets of the people with a little bit more longevity in mind. So yeah, interesting approach there. Yeah, I think before we are opening up the stage to community questions, there is also the angle here that I wanted to tackle, and that is from the perspective of a token issuer. So I've been talking to a bunch of people in the IOTA ecosystem, and yeah, there is quite a lot of interest in what is really the benefit on launching on Velocimeter compared to another AMM. We've been talking about that for some while now, but I feel like it's worth pointing out that once more, just because I know a lot of people are listening that are going to, benefit off that information.
Yes, there's a couple benefits to it. Okay, so first of all, we do have some partner earmarked NFTs. Okay, now the NFTs have IOTA tokens as well as IVM tokens inside them. They are liquidity pool tokens of monetary value. We cannot just mint them out of thin air. We actually have to provide IOTA in order to create these NFTs. So we do have some earmarked NFTs for potential partners, but we can't just give them out to anybody for anything, right? So there is the possibility that a project that we really like and we want to support, we could give them some voting power to start with. So that would be the first thing, right? Now, it's not necessary, like I said, it's not necessary. We have to be stingy because there are actual IOTA tokens inside these NFTs as well as our own governance IVM token, right? So that would be the first thing. The second thing is, like, the VE33 DEX system is very good at attracting users because APRs can really be really nice. Okay. So if you are a project, you can bribe inside our system and then you can recycle your bribes. Now, how does this work? Okay. So if you were to bribe, right, and then you were to vote on your own pool with voting power, then you would collect those bribes. And then you could give those bribes back to, and constantly. So it's not like you're not going to collect 100% of the bribes because other people are going to vote on your pool as well. So as a project, you get a lot of good benefits with this bribing system. And for another benefit is that when you bribe and people are voting, the people who are collecting those bribes generally have a longer term vision because they are locked in our system. So they have an NFT which is locked. So not only do they believe in Velocimeter to some extent because they have provided liquidity and locked it for an NFT, they're probably less likely to sell your token because they have that mindset in DeFi of being longer term. They're not just purely mercenary farmers, probably, right? You can't promise that, but it's more likely, right? So instead of putting like your reward token on some pool, then on some gauge and just rewarding people to farm it. Here you're rewarding people who are more likely to do things like locking tokens up, right? So it's a different profile of the person who's going to get your tokens. Now, another option we do have, we have lockable gauges. Our gauges have a mechanism where you can ask people to lock the LPs. So if you are a project and you want to provide liquidity, you can ask us to say, hey, listen, I want to provide liquidity and I want to lock the liquidity. So our gauges have this ability to lock tokens up. So basically a time lock. So it can be any time you want. You can say, oh, I want to lock this for 30 days. I want to lock this for 6 months or whatever that happens to be. And this provides a security to people who are looking to trade your token. So meme coins are very, very, very popular at doing this. What they do is they create a liquidity pool, and then everybody knows that like if I buy this liquidity pool, they can pull the liquidity and then I won't be able to sell. So because our gauges have a locking mechanism, then you can say to us, hey, listen, I want to provide liquidity and then I want to lock these liquidity pool tokens. And it'll be transparent. Like you can see how long they're locked, how much time is left before it unlocks. Everyone can kind of see this. So then, people will feel safer to trade your token because they know that liquidity is locked and it cannot be taken out for some time period. So this would be another benefit. We can also give your token options tokens. So then you can participate in this system of when people get your token, and you can give these options tokens any way you want. You can put them as bribes. You can put them on the gauge. You can airdrop them to people. You can give them to your friends. Whatever you want to do with these options tokens is up to you. And what people will then do with these options tokens is they can exercise into the liquidity pool, or they can exercise to liquid tokens to sell, right? And you as a project will gain the revenue that is generated from the cost of those people exercising those tokens. So just to summarize again is number one is we have locking gauges. So you can make your investors feel safe. We can give you options tokens where you can then, generate an additional revenue in the other side token. We can get into details if that's something like the project wants. We will explain everything very clearly to them, right? And then the last thing was, I've slipped my mind. What was the first thing I said? Can you remind me?
The locking of the LP. Yeah.
No, I did the locking. It was the bribing system, right? And you can access users that are more likely to not sell your token because they are long-term vision users. So those are probably the three major benefits of using Velocimeter. Of course, there are other things as well. There's quite a bit of opportunity. Like you have stable swap pools, volatile pools. We have concentrated liquidity. We have limit orders. We have all these other things that you can kind of access as a protocol as well. But I don't want to go on and on and on and on for an hour on this stuff. But those are, I would say, the major three things that you can access. You can bribe people who are long-term crypto users. You can access these lockable gauges, as well as if you want, the Velocimeter can design an options tokens for you to generate you more income for whatever purpose you want that income to do.
Awesome. Yeah,
How's
thanks
that?
for that. That was pretty good. I think that gave us the roundabout here. That is leading me to the dreaded when question. Do you have any idea already on when the launch day on IOTA EVM will come about?
Yeah, we don't have an exact date right now. We're pretty close though. We hope it to be within September, but it might be a little bit later. We're kind of trying to synchronize with IOTA, the foundation itself, because there are some grants about providing liquidity to the NFTs, creating the NFTs, and synchronizing with them to give them a share of these and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of admin work that's kind of dragging us along, slowing us down a little bit. But we're fully audited now. We were going to launch a long time ago without an audit, but then we started to work with Sherlock. We got our version 4 fully audited. We had to, of course, do some bug checks and bug fixes, recheck that the audit is live. I'm not sure. You can come into our Discord and ask to see the audit if that's something you want to do. I don't have a link to it right now. When we are launching, we are also currently doing like an airdrop campaign where we're going to airdrop people what we call Velocimeter coupons. Velocimeter coupons are like options tokens, except you cannot exercise to liquid. So you can be basically, we will give you the IVM needed to provide liquidity and get an NFT. We have a Zeely campaign right now, whereas you go answer some questions, and we will collect these the wallet addresses, and then airdrop these coupons to the people who want these coupons. So I'd like to make sure people understand that they're not getting tokens that they can immediately just sell on the liquidity pools. They are getting coupon tokens that allow them to add liquidity and create a VE-LP or a VE-NFT. So we're supplying them with half of the required needed tokens in order to create these LPs. So if you are interested in getting some of these coupons, you can kind of get that Zeely website, go through, answer a few questions, just so, just to make sure people understand what they're getting, what the system does. It's basically, I've answered, I think, all of the questions already, in this spaces, as well as you can read the article and kind of get a better, answer those questions. And then, if you're a community member from Velocimeter on Phantom as well as on Base, and you have a VE NFT there, you can get a boost on the amount of coupons you will get. Right now we're trying to figure out how to deal with the Mantle, because we are also on Mantle, but the Zeely doesn't connect to Mantle right now, so we're trying to figure out how to maybe manage this one. I don't know the best place to kind of share this Zeely link, so I've given it to you, Jonathan, and maybe you can give it to the community somewhere in some sort of announcements or something like that.
Absolutely.
We will, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off there, but I'll be sharing the link here with our friends in the spec channel shortly after this space. So everybody can have a look, and then they're halfway there to already start using Velocimeter when it drops. Anything else about the campaign? Otherwise, I would open up the stage. If there are any questions, then now is a good time to raise your hand, and then we will have you up here. But while that invitation is lingering, is there any wish that you have for the IOTA community? What is the best way for us to support you leading up to the launch?
I would say maybe joining the Discord, kind of asking more questions, getting engaged, understanding, because it's not a system that you can kind of just you don't just buy and sell the token. What we don't want trading volume on our token. What we want is people to understand the system, provide liquidity to various pools, and become a bigger ecosystem together. And so one of the things people can do is kind of plan to provide liquidity to the various pools. At launch, let me pull up my article here. At launch, we're going to have a few pools. We're not going to have a massive amount of pools. And there's the reasoning for this that I don't want to get into because it'll take quite a bit of time. But the initial pools are going to be IOTA WETH, IOTA USDT, WETH USDT, and then our token. Those are the pools that we're going to start with. And those are going to be like core pools, what we call core pools, pools people like to trade through because people, want to hold some of their crypto assets in WETH, USDT, or IOTA, right? So we want to create these trading possibilities as well as this liquidity. So you can plan to have this, to add some liquidity to these pools. If you do so, you will be earning OIVM tokens because we will vote with protocols voting power on these to direct emissions to these pools. Another thing you can do to kind of help out is like introduce teams to the Velocimeter team and kind of hopefully create some initial partners. The only initial partner we have right now is IOTA Lend, which is IOLend. They are interested and talking to us about how they will work with us. I'll share some details on them in an article in the future. But that's the only major protocol that has really reached out was IOLend, as well as CyberPerp, which is an upcoming DEX, which they're probably going to create some liquidity and provide liquidity to their token on our pool. So IOLend, WIOTA will also be a liquidity pool on probably day one or shortly thereafter. The way it solidly works is there's usually an epoch 0 where there's no rewards, but people are starting to come and provide liquidity and so forth. And then there is epoch 1 is when the emissions start coming out. So you generally have like a week of time to kind of, find which tokens you want to add liquidity to and to join the gauges and stuff like that. Sometimes we'll put some rewards on those, like we'll probably put some coupons on those week 0 rewards. And we're also talking to IOTA about another campaign, which is, it'll take me another 30 minutes to explain, but it's called a lock drop campaign where if you lock to these core pools, you will gain some IOTA tokens as well as some options tokens and coupons as well. But let's not get into those weeds right now.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that. I have to shout out, of course, your YouTube channel there as well. So if you're looking for Caesar's Snack Sandwich, then you will land on, Caesar's YouTube channel. He has a whole playlist dedicated to explaining Velocimeter. Great watch. Definitely recommend that. And yeah, also, of course, I would say it's definitely worth it to get behind how Velocimeter works before the launch. There are so many moving dynamic parts that there are probably going to be opportunities, for people that have the hang of it. I think that is basically everything that I wanted to throw at you. We don't have a raised hand speaking to your concise answers here, and probably also a lot to digest, but again, definitely worth getting the hang of it. With that, I think we covered quite a lot today. Any closing thoughts that you want to leave us with, Cesar?
Just one of the things that I always say is, read the docs. So this is like my motto. Try to understand things. Don't just like ape into like Velocimeter and try to make sure you understand how the thing works and how, what is what and how things move and stuff like that to at least some extent, right? So I would suggest, checking out, like you said, my YouTube channel. I have quite a few videos on different kinds of DeFi protocols. Like, no, I'm not just producing content on Velocimeter. I try to cover is anything that's DeFi that's new. So it's a great resource to kind of get you understanding. And I do have a series called DeFi 101, which will allow you to like kind of really start off on what, what is a liquidity pool? What is like a DEX and this kind of stuff? This is probably the best place to start for someone who's really trying to just, what is DeFi? I don't even know what DeFi is. This would be the place I would send them. The Discord, the Velocimeter Discord is very helpful as well. The community is awesome. If you do have questions, you can join the Velocimeter Discord and you will get access to all the communities. So all the different chains, all those communities are kind of all in the one same place. So you can kind of access that. And then of course on, the touch point, the IOTA different communities, we have people in there. If you tag, the certain users that are from Velocimeter, they will, ask you or answer questions and help you to understand more deeper if you do have questions. And that's kind of the thing about like, there's no rush. There's no need to FOMO anything right now. Now is the time to learn, what is this thing? How does it work? Do I like this? Do I want to use this? Do I feel this is a good utility and tool to use? And then when the launch does come, you can you'll be ready to and already decided what you want to do. Yeah, that's about it. I think he's gone. Maybe it's a Twitter rug.
Oh no, it's the double tap, the dreaded double tap on my phone. Yeah, thank you, Caesar. That was where I was getting at. And of course, also mentioning that this episode of Buildsphere, like any other, is for informational purposes only, of course. And yeah, with that, thank you everybody that joined us here today. And especially thank you to you, Caesar. I'll be sure to be dropping the Zeely link in the spec channel now on the IOTA Discord. So yeah, thank you so much and catch you on Discord then.
Yes, thanks so much for having me. And I'm going to get some water now and take a little break.
Well deserved. Then, yeah, have a great rest of the day, everybody. We have a last minute request coming up. Caesar, are you up for taking that question still?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm
awesome.
In a huge rush, actually.
And the Joker, Greg, it's going to probably take a second of Twitter glitching. But yes, it's working. Hey there, let's hear your question, please.
Right at the end of a lot, it looks like very cool stuff. Firstly, for Caesar, what would you say is in comparison, or if you compare Chainlink's CCIP? So, are there any similarities into how they're trying to eliminate, bridges and try and simplify the liquidity providing functions? And then secondly, maybe to the IOTA gentleman is, just a 2-line summary of what IOTA has been doing. I've been following it for a long time. What is the latest developments this year? What are we excited about? Yeah, but thanks.
I guess I can kind of go first because I don't have a lot of information. I've only seen the CCIP mentioned a few times. I haven't really gone in and read those docs and looked deeply. So I can't speak with any authority on the CCIP bridging mechanism that Chainlink's trying to use but all I know is that they're trying to make it so that like it doesn't require specialized tokens. Like you don't have to, like if you want to use Stargate, I know you need to use like Stargate tokens in order to have bridgeability through Stargate and messaging and stuff like that. And as far as I know, the CCIP is trying to create it so that any ERC20 can kind of go through this CCIP. But that's all I've heard. I haven't read the docs. I haven't gone in there. I haven't read any articles on it. So yeah, I can't speak with any authority on it right now.
Yeah, taking the second question here. So, it depends on when the last time you visited our Discord or our Twitter here. Lots of things happening, a lot of focus on the EVM, producing growing numbers in basically every metric. And yeah, getting more projects on the EVM, getting more people using the projects on the EVM. That is currently a big focus. Anything going beyond that is rather out of my reservoir, but of course, always a lot of things happening. To keep it rather short, I would definitely suggest you drop by the Discord. We have announcement channels that are quite busy these days. I think that will give you a good idea of what has been happening recently. So thank you so much, Joker Greg, for your question. And let's see, we have 2 more comments. Let me quickly check those. Yeah, I think we basically covered everything. And with that, thanks again, everybody, and wishing a beautiful rest of the day. Thank you again, Caesar. Thank you, Greg, for asking a question. And thanks, everybody else, for tuning in. Have a lovely rest of the day. Goodbye.